All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Rocky Top Insider postgame show. This is Ryan Shumpert. I'm Rick Butler, standing here in Neyland Stadium. Number 7 Tennessee finds a win over Mississippi State by a score of 33-14. Ryan, I think we might as well just start with the big news that's on everybody's mind coming out of the game. In case you haven't seen it on Twitter, quarterback Nico Iamaleava does not come back out to the field for the second half. He went down with injury. This is what head coach Josh Heupel had to say in the immediacy of his postgame press conference. Quote, "We anticipate having him ready for next week. Precautionary measure at halftime. Feel like we'll be ready to roll Saturday." You said it best. When Gaston Moore came out for the second half, he took that first snap. He even took that second snap. You could hear a pin drop inside Neyland Stadium, not just because of the offense on the field, but because everybody was in shock that Nico didn't come back out.
Yeah, for sure. And just the bizarre nature of it. I mean, he was out there on this. The last play of the first half was a field goal attempt, which we'll get to that, a best kick in Max Gilbert's career. But the second to last play, he was out there, and he completed a 21-yard pass, I think, to Squirrel White. So the bizarre nature of it, and certainly you lose your quarterback in this day and age. It's a crushing blow in Tennessee. 2 of their final 3 games were tough ones, and certainly a really tough one next week in Athens. So that was big. Sounds like a really positive update from Heupel. Maybe a little bit of like, all right, let's see 100% sure. Let's see what the injury report looks like. But no, a good sign for sure, especially when you looked at the play. It seemed like he probably got injured on, which was the drive before when he took a big hit on the last play of that drive. Kind of landed hard on his, I believe, his right shoulder. Reason for concern with that. It seems all positive. We'll see where things go from here, and how close to 100% he is, and if he for sure can play. Heupel hasn't always been the most forthcoming with injury updates in the past, but the way he came in, he came in positive and kind of laughing before, well, let's get it going. You knew that was on everybody's mind. He seemed overall positive besides just the statement.
And I thought that credit to him. Adam Sparks had a funny response when Josh Heupel said, all right, we're getting this question out right away. And Adam Sparks said, hey, playoff committee's going to want to know, right? Yeah. Playoff committee's going to want to know. So I spent a lot of the second half, Ryan, thinking about how we are going to discuss this. If we're going to have to be breaking down Gaston Moore tape this week, it seems like that's not likely. But again, what you said, we will wait until the injury report comes out on Wednesday, and then certainly talking to Josh Heupel on Monday, we might get a little bit better of an idea. That being said, Tennessee gets the win 33-14. That moment in the second half where Tennessee's Dylan Sampson doesn't come back out, or he doesn't start the drive. Nico Iamaleava doesn't come back out. I certainly think that worried people, but ultimately Tennessee got a fairly good-sized win here in Neyland Stadium, and a lot of that offensively because of Dylan Sampson. Really put the team on his back. He was tremendous for Tennessee. I believe he had 149 yards and a touchdown on 30 carries in the game, and that's without Deshaun Bishop being back there as well. So a lot got put on his shoulders, man, and he did what Dylan Sampson's done all year.
100%, and again, his injury seemed not good.
No.
When it happened, and he didn't walk off under his own power, but he went back to the locker room. Like, he didn't go to the medical tent. He went straight to the locker room. So that didn't seem great, and he was down for a minute. So, when you talk about, when Nico was out, you're like, I got to run the ball a lot. And if Dylan Sampson's out and you already have Deshaun Bishop's out, it's like, man, Tennessee's in trouble. And Sampson was able to, come back in, I think, on the second drive of the second half, and he was really good. He had a 32-yard touchdown run, was Tennessee's lone touchdown in the second half. And it came at a big time when Mississippi State had just scored a touchdown to cut the lead to 9. It felt like that stemmed a lot of the concerns for Tennessee. And really, Tennessee just ran the ball a lot on that drive. I think they had a couple pass interferences to get some yards, but it was largely the running game. So Sampson, again, was really, really good. Probably more workload than you would have liked him to have in this game, just from a number standpoint going in. But obviously, Tennessee was kind of pushed or kind of put in a different position than they expected to be going into it.
There's plenty of things we can talk about with this offense. One of them being that Tennessee scored on their opening drive, something that hasn't done since, I believe, Kent State. If that
sounds right. Yeah.
I believe it's correct. But you could also talk about the chunk plays. Now, I know that's something you wrote about after the game, whether it was in the run game a little bit, certainly, or whether it was in the pass game a little bit, certainly in the run game as well. I really noticed that too. Tennessee was able to get some things going, especially when things were getting maybe a little bit stagnant, but those chunk plays were there tonight.
They were.
And they needed to be against a defense that Mississippi State presents. They present an opportunistic defense for Tennessee to get those.
Yeah, I think we'll start with that. That's the positive. And I'm going to go on a tangent in the middle of this,
Please.
too. But yes, hit some big plays. The first touchdown of the game, you said on the first drive, 4th and 6. Squirrel White, kind of a busted coverage, very similar to the play, really right at the same spot, right behind us, where Nico missed him against Alabama in the first half. He hit some touchdown, and then later in the game, I think it was 7-0 at that time, a 73-yard touchdown to Dante Thornton on the first play of the drive. That ball underthrown, Dante Thornton catches it, makes the man miss, scores. Josh Heupel was asked after the game, is it better to have an underthrow than an overthrow? And he kind of sidestepped it, talking about how it depends on how the official's going to call it. In college, yes, I think it's definitely better for an underthrow. In the NFL, you can argue it because DBs are better. They're better at turning their head, finding the ball, higher chance of interception. You got a better chance, and to me, in college with the underthrow, it gives your receiver a chance to go make a contested catch, maybe get a pass interference. Because, again, college corners oftentimes do not turn their head. And you get pass interferences like Tennessee had on, I think, 3 of them with Gaston Moore in the second half. So that's the tangent.
Well, and to that point as well, just before, unless you want to keep going.
No, you got it.
To that point as well, you saw it with that defensive back and how he played that underthrow. He stretched his arm out, but it looked like to me when he made that stretch, he sort of lost his balance trying to come back for it. So I think you're right. I think that's a play where collegiate level defensive backs, as good as they are, as good as they can be, that's a tough play that they don't have a ton of experience with. And you saw it with that DB getting off balance, trying to turn around and trying to make a break on that ball.
Yeah, for sure. And I always say, and this is a very uninformed opinion, but I always feel like quarterback, cornerback, and kicker are the 3 positions that are the biggest difference from the NFL and college, just in the level of play. And then the last point I was going to say, Tennessee needed the big plays because the red zone offense was bad again tonight. Trip down at Dylan Sampson, 3rd straight game with a fumble, at least if not in the red zone, it was in the red zone tonight, right inside, right around the red zone in all 3 games. And then Tennessee steps up. Boo Carter, 2 plays later, interception. Tennessee's got 1st and goal at the 9-yard line. They ran Peyton Lewis 4 straight times, and he came up, I don't know, maybe 5 inches short of a touchdown. So, again, Tennessee's, a couple other trips to the red zone didn't produce touchdowns. Some of that, makes some more sense with situational in the game. But, again, Tennessee's red zone offense continues to struggle. I wanted to see them get some things going in the pass game in the red zone. Didn't have it tonight. So it made those big plays all the more important.
One thing that Tennessee did get going, at least offensively, though, was the leg of Max Gilbert. And that was big for Tennessee, not just to get the points on the board tonight against Mississippi State, but to get a little bit of confidence and a little bit of swagger back. And I think those last couple of weeks were tough for him. Obviously, a young player at this game.
Yeah.
But you have a game like tonight where Max Gilbert knocks in 24, 38, 38, and 51. And that 51 was huge for Tennessee. I believe that was the one right there at the end of the half. Yeah. Right there at the end of the half. So Tennessee puts up a big field goal right there, but a positive sign for the special teams to get back on track a little bit. And then, like you had just mentioned, you get Boo Carter adding a little bit of an extra X factor. Now, there was that play over here on the sideline where he maybe took it, and I don't know if that's something that is encouraged by the Tennessee staff or not. But, man, you saw a couple of those dynamic returns, and hey, Boo Carter was a phenom at the high school level, both offensively and defensively. He knows how to move with the ball in his hands. You saw a little bit of that tonight from his punt return, but special teams picked it up a little bit tonight.
Yeah, they had a couple good returns on kicks too. One from William Wright, one from Peyton Lewis. So you're right. And, Gilbert's first kick was the short kick, and it honestly was not the prettiest kick. So for him to bounce back that felt like a slight continuation of his struggles. At least it wasn't very reassuring. For him to follow that up with 3 good kicks was a really big sign, and good for him heading into the Georgia game.
Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball before we go up and start recording the RTI press pass, which is going to be a more extended breakdown of this game that Ryan and I will do upstairs. Ryan, I was reading your 4 takeaways piece, which I highly encourage everybody to go do on RockyTopInsider.com. I have here written down in my notes, run defense with an arrow down, pass defense with an arrow up. Can you sort of explain to me what I might have been writing down after reading your piece right there?
It feels to me like it was kind of a continuation of the run defense struggling like it did last week against Kentucky, and some big plays, some bad run fits. I think it was maybe right around 180 yards the Mississippi State ran for, and a big reason is that, and the number wasn't bigger than that, probably was net larger than that. Is that correct? The net rushing yards? It doesn't have it as a team.
It doesn't have the totals.
But the pass defense was really good, and the pass rush was really good, and Tennessee had a bunch of sacks in this game. So that led to a lot of negative rushing stats on the stat sheet.
179 rushing yards.
Yeah, net. But I don't think that's...
Oh, you wanted the pre.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I
We'll,
said
we'll get it for the
we'll
podcast.
figure it out for the podcast. But yeah, Tennessee's pass defense was really good. I think Van Buren threw for less than 100 yards, an interception. Jason Jenkins had a strip sack. Tennessee's pressure maybe wasn't the pass rush maybe didn't have its best game of the year, but it was good number of sacks in this game, and especially in the second half when they were kind of trying to put it away. Bryson Easton had a big one on a third down. Omar Norman Lott and a number of other guys were there on a big one on a third down. So pass defense was really good. Run defense, it's not like it was horrible, but for a unit that, or a part of Tennessee's defense that was so good for a large chunk of the season, feels like they're teetering a little bit right now.
Yeah, and you might be thinking of Mississippi State, especially if you read all the, I guess, all the game week stuff that we had written out. Mississippi State does not provide a very good defense, but they do have an offense that is capable of moving the ball down the field. We were wondering how that was going to play into effect in this game. One of my bold predictions heading into the game was that even though that Mississippi State had a bit of a potent offense, I still believe that Tennessee was going to hold their opponent under 20 points, and that's what they did with the 14. So you saw Mississippi State have a couple of big drives. I remember that 16-1. What do you?
That was a generous, bold prediction.
I'm
not sure that was bold. I felt like it was a bold prediction saying that they would
semi-bold.
I felt like it was a bold prediction saying that Tennessee would give up 20. So you were right.
Yes.
And I was wrong. So I want to get out ahead of that.
But you want me to keep my ego in check a little bit with the bold prediction?
I'm just not sure I would have called that a bold prediction.
I think I exactly wrote down in my predictions. Here's my bold prediction.
That's fantastic.
There were a couple of times where Mississippi State was able to move the ball, specifically that 16 play. I believe it was 75-yard.
Like 8 minutes or something
it took 8 minutes off the clock. But you know what Tennessee did after that? They responded with a touchdown of their own.
I think both Mississippi State touchdown drives, Tennessee answered with a scoring drive, at least, if not. I think it was maybe the 8-minute one. I think it might have been a field goal. But scores after both of them for sure. You're right.
Because Tennessee took about 5 minutes off the clock themselves with that drive. So there were a couple of times, but ultimately Tennessee's defense did what they know what we know they are capable of doing, and that is pressuring the quarterback. That is being ferocious. That is being relentless. And that's what you saw tonight against Michael Van Buren and company.
Yeah, the Van Buren boy. He was good on that drive. A little inaccurate throwing the football. Saw him run the ball, well at times. So. Again, as a whole, another good performance. I thought Tennessee also rotated a ton of guys on defense. I feel like they played more guys on defense than they have. Even Jordan Matthews, Jordan Matthews got some run in the first half at corner. He hasn't really gotten any meaningful playing time all season. So a good game overall, despite a little bit of a worrisome theme maybe starting to bud with the run defense.
Anything else on the game, or else I'm going to wrap this thing up?
Let's wrap it up.
All right, number 7 Tennessee gets a win against Mississippi State here tonight, 33-14 over the Bulldogs. And now sights turn to next week's game against the Bulldogs in Athens. It's going to be a big one. Georgia lost to Ole Miss in Oxford here today, so there's going to be a ton of conversation going into this game. It's going to be a huge one, night game in Athens. We'll get you ready for that. But first, we're headed up to the box to go record the RTI Press Pass podcast, which you can find right here on YouTube or wherever you get your favorite podcast. Otherwise, it's going to wrap it up for us tonight, if I can get that word out. It's almost midnight here. This is Ryan Shumpert. I'm Rick Butler. You've been listening to the Rocky Top Insider postgame show. See you back for the next one.